celebrate the Holy Trinity, and since that is our namesake, it is a good day to think about why we call ourselves Trinity. Name of a church, I think, is important. I think names in general are more important than we often treat them. Names say something about who we are, and the name of our church says something about who we are as the people of God. So in our gospel for today, Jesus is once again encountering the religious elite of his day, and they decide that they'll call him a name: Samaritan. Note that Jesus doesn't even acknowledge their slur. He loves the Samaritans, just like he loves everyone else. He will not dignify their childish attempt at demeaning him with a response. But what he does do is show them how ridiculous their statement is. They suggest that he has a demon. And if that is so, then the God they claim to worship is a demon, because he and the Father are one. Here's one place in the New Testament where Jesus clearly demonstrates that Jews are a different religion. They are not the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jews are not almost Christian, the way I hear so many Christians talk about them. They're no more almost Christian than Hindus or Muslims. They are a different religion. And these Jews to whom Jesus is speaking in our gospel worship God falsely when they reject God's Son as God incarnate. See, one cannot reject a part of God without rejecting all of God. And to drive this point home even further, Jesus refers to himself with the same name that God gave to Moses when Moses asked God, "Who should I say sent me?" God says, "I am." Jesus carries the same name as the Father, I am. The text says, Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." And we know they got the point. The reason we know they got the point is because they picked up stones. They're going to kill him. And then Jesus got away from them. I don't have the voters' minutes that record the day we chose the name Trinity for this church. In all honesty, I don't guess it really would matter much why our forefathers decided to name this church Trinity. But I do believe that we have grown into that name over the last 105 years. The Trinity is above all mysterious. It cannot be understood. It cannot be metaphorized. It is something beyond our comprehension. And this congregation understands that the work we do in our community really is quite mysterious. We don't try to nail down every single action we take and prove categorically and comprehensively that somehow we are doing God's work. Rather, we tend to just live out our baptismal lives as God's people and trust the Holy Spirit to do the work he promises to do. And as your pastor, I tend to hold the reins pretty loosely, sometimes too loosely in some people's estimation. But I saw in this congregation really very early on that the Spirit is alive and active in this place. So when you come to me with a plan, I'm often very likely to encourage you to run with it and see what the Holy Spirit does with it, rather than squash it because, well, it might not work, or it's not completely and categorically doctrinally pure. And I, over the years, have consistently been amazed how God has worked through your seemingly cockamamie schemes. Tuesday morning coloring started out as about 3 people sitting in the Trinity Center with pre-printed little pictures drinking coffee. And now we have to bring in chairs for all of our friends from UPC Seguin to join us for that event. Beef and bourbon night started out as a handful of guys who like to eat steaks. And next spring will very likely top over 100 men at that event. Operation Barnabas is growing as we keep finding veterans falling out of the woodwork around here. And the outlet, the young youth group, is going to expand next year into their own space because they keep finding more and more kids who actually think that it's fun to come to church in the middle of the week and learn about Jesus. These are all people who come to this place to whom we have the opportunity to witness and to whom we have the opportunity to show the love of God. And it's not always obvious how these things are going to work. But that is the way of Trinity. It's mysterious. The Pharisees in the world, they want everything black and white, nailed down, tucked away. But that's not how our God works. Our God, He resides in heaven. And yet at the same time, He resides in flesh and blood. And at the same time, moves into us with His Holy Spirit. He is a Cockamamie God from this world's perspective. And speaking of the word cockamamie, Merriam-Webster tells us that that word is not just an arbitrarily coined nonsense word. Here begins your English etymology lesson, but I think it's helpful. I think it's helpful to know this. Cockamamie is a form of the term decalcomania. And decalcomania is a process for transferring pictures or designs onto specially prepared paper and then use that paper to transfer that design onto another surface. And the word decalcomania comes from the French décalquer, which means to copy by tracing. Mania was added to decalquer in this country in the 1940s because it became the rage to have painted strips of paper with images transferred to the skin as fake tattoos. That's where we get the word. See, these fake tattoos were called cockamamies from the word mania plus decalquer. And cockamamies were regarded by the adults particularly as something that was really quite silly to do. Their children would come back from fairs and carnivals and all that with all these tattoos all over their hands and arms. And then the word evolved as cockamamie to mean anything that's stupid or ridiculous, silly. But if you know the etymology, we do have a cockamamie God. Think about it. He transfers Himself into us through water and word and bread and wine. He fills us up with Himself. And He thereby changes our fallen, sinful human nature. And He turns us into holy, righteous saints. And all of that seems completely ridiculous to the people around us who believe that you have to do something to save yourself. You can't just sit back and wait for God to take care of everything for you. We live amongst people who do not believe that God is a necessity, much less a reality. And we cockamamie Lutherans at Trinity Lutheran Church happily live in this world and live with these people who are usually too polite to say so, but really think that we're nuts. Through all of our cockamamie schemes, we reach out into the people around us, showing them love, showing them appreciation, showing them our concern. We withhold judgment, and we allow people to be who they are right now because we know that as the Holy Spirit enters them, they will become whatever it is He wants them to be. Just like when He entered us, we became something different from what we were. We understand, see, that whatever it is that God is doing through us and through the people we touch is far bigger than we are. Far greater than anything we can understand. And so we're happy just to play the role which we've been assigned and let God be God. Trinity Lutheran Church worships a Cockamamie God. And that suits us just fine. Because he is in us. And we are therefore in him.